Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a document today that by all conventional logic probably shouldn't even exist. It's this massive framework of 29 complex mathematical theorems submitted by an inventor, Timothy J. Dillon. Now, usually, when you have a framework like this, you send it to MIT, Caltech, maybe the Patent Office, but Dillon sent his to the Vatican.
And he didn't just send it to the archives or some low-level clerk. He submitted it directly to the Pope for review. The title is The Omega Point Theorems, and the premise is completely audacious.
Yeah.
Dillon is arguing that things we treat as abstract spiritual concepts like kindness, sin, grace, they are actually measurable physical forces. He believes they function exactly like gravity or electromagnetism.
Which is wild. And we have the Vatican Review report analyzing this submission right here. The mission of this deep dive is to unpack how Dillon is using differential equations, math usually reserved for engineering, to model the moral curvature of the universe.
Right. It's a bold attempt to translate Catholic morality into the hard sciences. Systems theory, field dynamics, convergence. But before we get into the equations, we have to talk about why this actually got read. Because usually unsolicited manuscripts vanish into the Vatican bureaucracy, never to be seen again.
Yeah, that brings us to what the report calls the providential connection. They make a really big deal about the specific link between the author and the recipient, Pope Leo XIV, who was formerly Robert Francis Prevost.
It is a really strange thread. Both men actually share deep roots in the Chicago south suburbs and a specific connection to a parish called Our Lady of Knock. The source literally calls it a quiet thread of providence. But the real reason this document didn't hit the shredder is the Pope's resume.
Right. This is the detail that unlocks the whole story for me. Pope Leo XIV isn't just a theologian. Before the priesthood, he actually earned a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Villanova.
Which is the only reason this works at all. I mean, most theologians would look at Dillon's pages of calculus and just see gibberish. Pope Leo can actually read a theological argument written in nonlinear dynamics. It resonates with his Augustinian background, specifically the idea that my weight is my love. This framework takes that metaphor and makes it literal physics.
So let's look at that physics. The theorems hinge on a tension between two opposing forces, dispersion and centropy. Dispersion seems intuitive enough. It acts kind of like entropy in thermodynamics.
Exactly. In this model, dispersion is sin or fragmentation. It's the noise that decays systems and tears relationships apart over time. But centropy is the counterforce. It relies on the work of mathematician Luigi Fontappier. He found that while entropy pushes disorder from the past, the math allows for a dual solution, a force that pulls the system toward order from the future.
That effectively flips the arrow of time. Instead of just being pushed by what happened yesterday,
the system is being pulled by what it's supposed to become.
Fontappier called it the law of love, and Dillon connects this to the theology of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and the Omega Point.
Right, the theoretical limit where human and divine consciousness converge.
This is where the math gets really personal. I want to look at Theorem 22, Omega Kindness. The report highlights this as a massive shift in how we view social interaction.
It defines kindness as a propagation operator. In simple terms, when you act with kindness, you aren't just being nice, you are lowering the moral curvature of the space around you. You reduce the geometric distance between yourself and an adversary.
It's kind of like a gravity well. If you lower the curvature, it becomes physically easier for the other person to slide toward you than to stay away.
Precisely. You make conflict mathematically less probable. And this leads directly into Module M2, forgiveness. The source describes forgiveness using an integral.
Now, for you listening, if you haven't done calculus in a while, an integral basically calculates the total volume or area under a curve. It sums things up.
That's the key insight here. The theorem says for forgiveness to occur, your present centropy, your current output of grace, must mathematically exceed the integral of past dispersion, or the total volume of trauma.
That implies forgiveness isn't a one-time decision. It's an energetic balancing act. You need enough positive force in the now to neutralize the total weight of the negative past.
It's surprisingly practical for a theological document. And the Vatican is actually looking at applying this on a macro scale for the 2033 Jubilee, specifically regarding Theorem 23, the Christ attractor.
Right. An attractor in physics is a state that a system tends to evolve toward, no matter where it starts.
The theorem posits Christ as a positive transcendent attractor. The Vatican sees this as a model for ecumenism, basically church unity. Instead of arguing about institutions, they visualize unity as a mutual drift. If different denominations all align their trajectory with the attractor, they naturally converge at the omega point without needing to fight over boundaries.
It reframes love your enemy from a moral rule into a structural imperative of the universe. If you don't align, you're just fighting the geometry of reality.
It implies our actions are constantly warping the space we live in, creating either friction or flow.
Which leaves us with a question for you to carry into your day. We know our actions warp moral geometry, but consider the ripple effect of your inaction. If you just stand still in a relationship, does the natural entropy of the universe pull you apart? Or does your alignment with the omega point pull you together?
That really adds a new layer of gravity to passive relationships.
It really does. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the next one.